back to the Sports Syllabus Show. I'm your host, John Shakota, and I'm joined by
James Graham, University of the Pacific.
and so James, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with me to do the podcast. So I start the podcast that I have guests on with a phone call from my mom. She gives them some questions. So it's usually two questions. So Mom, what are your two questions for James?
All right. Hi, James.
Hi.
As as a coach, how do you help support and guide athletes who might be struggling with balancing the pressures of school, training, and personal life? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Playing Division One athletics and water polo is a very demanding thing. It has a lot, there's a lot of pressure on the athletes. There's a lot of demands on them from their time, from the academic side to the athletic side, and also just social. So, one of the things that we try to do here is we try to prepare them to deal with adversity and the obstacles that are going to come along. So, inside of our program, we read books like Obstacles the Way. It's a Ryan Holiday book, and the whole idea is how do you take adversity and turn it into your advantage? How do you take obstacles and turn them into opportunities? How do you get the right perception, create the right action, and have the willpower to follow through? And these kinds of tools and skills for us are critical to learn at this point in time and that kind of their lives that will help propel them through all their challenges that they'll face later on after they get out of college. So it's actually something that we spend a lot of time on and
Hmm.
talk about probably on a weekly basis on the minimum, if not daily.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Mom. Second question.
Okay. As a coach, do you have any go-to meal or snack recommendations for your athletes to fuel up before or after practice, especially since water polo is such an intense sport?
Yeah, for my favorite one, to be honest, before games and what we like to get the team, I love acai bowls. They're fantastic. They're just kind of enough food and sugars and stuff like that from the natural sugars and stuff like that to get you going, but not so heavy it's going to weigh you down in the game. And so we like to go to an acai bowl before a game.
Definitely. All right, Mom, I'll call you later.
All
Thanks.
right. Thank you. Thanks, James.
Thank you.
All right, bye, Mom. Love you. Okay. So you've been coaching for a little bit. I was looking at your page. You've been coaching for a little while. So what has changed since you started coaching in the sense of, with all the NIL and all that stuff, but what has changed in the coaching aspects as well?
Yeah, there's a lot. I started coaching straight out of college, junior college first, and then
Hmm.
got hired here at the University of the Pacific and been coaching Division One athletics now for 17 years. So, it's been a journey. There's always kind of an evolution and an iteration to all these things. So, a few of the things that kind of have changed for sure. You're talking about the NIL stuff, which is just
Yeah.
huge, the house settlement, all that stuff
Oh
that's
my
coming through.
gosh.
That's
Yeah.
changing the game. So right now, the largest amount of change is happening in this exact moment.
Yeah.
Um, but to be honest, like before COVID to after COVID, there was definitely some differences in that, and how you kind of approach the training, the mental aspect of the game, dealing with adversity. Like I just talked about reading this book, Obstacles the Way. I think now more than ever, trying to help the young athletes deal with um, you know what do you do when you're in tough spots? When do you
Hmm.
do when you feel like things aren't going well? What do you do when you're not meeting your expectations or your goals, or you have challenges that you face? I think that there there's a real need right now to have a systematic approach to dealing
Hmm.
with scenarios. So
Definitely.
that's changed a lot. We focus a lot more on that than I did earlier on in my career. Tactics always change and evolve as rules change inside the
Hmm.
game of
Yeah,
water.
definitely.
So we've changed how we've played consistently throughout the game, and then now right now it's a lot about fundraising and trying to run a good
It's
business.
exactly because it's college sports have turned into a business. You just saw with the Tennessee quarterback, he didn't want to sign. He didn't want to play for Tennessee because they didn't give him $4 million. So now he's basically a free agent, which is
Right?
crazy. And we saw Michigan this offseason. They got a quarterback to flip his commitment for $12 million. So now you're right. Like so many schools are fundraising to try and get NIL money. Is NIL kind of a big thing in water polo, or is it kind of progressively getting bigger and bigger as NIL and other sports gets bigger and bigger?
I think it's something that is kind of just in the beginning phases in water polo right now.
Okay.
Last year was kind of the first year I would say that you could see teams that were their rosters were impacted by NIL money.
Hmm. Yeah.
Obviously, it's on scale, so we're a smaller sport, so it's not the same kind of money they're talking about in these other sports. But
Yeah.
anytime you're able to make life more affordable for an athlete, whether it's $1 million or $10,000,
Exactly.
still making that kind of impact because it's all relative to what you're getting paid inside the market of your sport. So NIL is definitely impacting water polo now, and I think it's just going to kind of grow. What's going to be interesting for me is just to see how the market settles. I think right
Hmm.
now it's kind of one of those scenarios where everything's so shook up and
Exactly.
anyone really knows what like the true value and the true pricing is for everyone's services. And so
Hmm.
in 5 years, are we going to look back and be like, wow, we got really good deals? Are we going to look back and go, oh my God, everyone's overpaid?
Exactly.
Who knows? But it's definitely shaking things up.
Exactly. I think that's especially with college sports, you are like overpaying for some of these guys because you just don't want your rival schools to get them. Like, I don't think Nico is worth $4 to $5 million, but a school is going to pay for him because how he brought a team to a college football playoff last year. And yeah, that team was great, but still, schools are going to overpay for him because of just the fact that he won. And that's just what college sports is going to be like. Like there are going to be a bunch of guys in the portal, and we saw already with some basketball guys that will probably be getting overpaid, but just because of, like you said, that's how the market is going right now. You're going to have to pay $2 to $3 more million, and I'm just saying in like the big sports you're gonna have to overpay in those if you want to get that guy. Because if you pay under what he wants, you're gonna be stuck with a lower level guy, which especially for the big schools, they don't want that.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's interesting because it just reminds me so much of Moneyball, which
Hmm.
is, one of
Yeah.
my favorite movies and books. And I think that inside of college sports, I wonder how much all of these schools have a really robust analytics department
Yeah,
that
because that.
are we're doing the work to try to figure out what like the fair market values are
Uh
for all
huh.
of the players. And because, in the beginning scenes of Moneyball, it's talking about how, that they believe that these star players the Oakland A's lost were overpaid and they weren't actually worth that. And it was an inaccurate understanding of how baseball games were won and lost.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely.
And that there was a championship team that they could afford.
Uh huh.
So it'll be interesting to see whether or not you see programs invest in general managers now, and
Hmm.
how much are they going to also invest in analytics departments because
Exactly.
this money grows inside of here and you're trying to make these contracts, you're going to need to have kind of a data department to be able to survive this. Otherwise, your finances may put you in a hole one day.
Exactly. And you just talked a little bit on analytics. You're a big analytics guy yourself in coaching. You talked about Moneyball, but why is that? Why are you such a big analytics guy? Some coaches are, there's a lot of coaches now that are either analytics or just like kind of like like the Patinos of the world, the kind of hard nosed kind of coaches. So what makes you an analytic guy?
Yeah, well, I mean, first, my degree's in mathematics, so I
Mhm.
graduated, with a degree in, mathematics and cryptanalysis, and so I've always loved and had a passion for math in general. So it was kind of a cool chance when I found out about Moneyball to be able to combine two things that I really enjoy,
Uh-huh.
give me potentially a competitive advantage here at the University of the Pacific. And you're always trying to find out like what are you great at? What areas can you beat
Hmm.
people? What are your advantages? And so for me, analytics has definitely done that. It opened my eyes in Moneyball. Like I said, the idea that like you know, if baseball had been making bad decisions and that the math actually said that you shouldn't do some of the things from contracts or the way they played, it was still stolen, whether to steal bases, things like this. Um, then why not water polo, right? There was
Hmm.
so much money in baseball for so long. Why wouldn't water polo also be making bad decisions? So how do we find a way to do that? And I think the more information you have, the better decisions you make. And analytics to me is just one of those scenarios where you get more information and you're able to be it's like adding an extra coach in the room. It's not
Mhm.
there to make every decision for us, but it's there to help inform every decision we make. And
Exactly.
we've seen a significant change in our success after we've spent time and invested in trying to use data to improve our program.
Exactly, because like in water polo, um, we've talked about this before. Just you and I, like you said that you can use the data and analytics to say if this was a good shot or not, and the amount of
Yeah,
defenders around and how that kind of affects it too. So and especially I think analytics are starting to get. I mean, I graduated, but we use analytics a little bit more in high school sports as well. So I think they're
yeah,
just it's starting to become more and more kind of common, and I think a lot of it comes from the Moneyball thing, where you've seen sort of since that came out, there have been so many coaches and so many teams that have started to adapt and use data and analytics. There's so like in the NFL when they have the on the TV like the fourth and whatever, and then they say the analytic things, like that just
yeah.
shows it's not only affecting us, it's affecting the sports media where they're putting them on the TV because they know so many coaches rely on analytics to make decisions and not just water polo too, which is you make a great point. I think it's starting to become worldwide with all the sports in the world.
100%. And I think that, not long, it'll just be a staple in every program.
Oh,
And we're
oh
not,
yeah, definitely.
I mean, the other thing about it is, someone once said, the oldest form of analytics is your gut.
Hmm.
So, whether it's Patino, right? The reality is he's seen so much in the game of basketball and so many scenarios, and he's collected so much information that he actually inside of him, without actually knowing it, has knows the data of that situation. Maybe not as accurate as a spreadsheet, but
Yeah,
still unbelievably accurate because he's seen it so much. So
exactly.
a lot of people that like aren't into the idea of data don't realize they're still using it all the time because they look at situations and they've seen it so much and they say, hey, we should do this in this scenario. Well, why? Because they know how, like, hey, it's been more successful most of the time when I've seen this situation work. Well, I mean, that's just it may not be,
Exactly.
but it's the same thing.
Exactly. So you're one of the very few coaches in Division One, I think sports in general, that coaches both men and women. So and my dad just made he doesn't coach men and women, but he just made the transition to he's a head girls varsity coach and he's I think one of the best in the state. Um
Yeah.
but yeah, you coach both in the same year. So what is that kind of like and what are the big sort of differences from coaching guys to girls?
Yeah, obviously it's busy, but it's a lot of fun. They both teams. It's really enjoyable to coach. They bring different things to the table, just like any two teams that would be different, whether it is men and women or not. But there are some differences between the programs. I mean, tactically and structurally, culturally, we're pretty close. We're
Uh-huh.
probably 85% similar,
Yeah.
but there is some small changes between it. Um, so, one of the things on the women's side that's amazing coaching the women is, their dedication to the game plan and trying to know what they're supposed to do and, being
Hmm.
on the same page as the coaching staff is fantastic. It's
Yeah.
it's it's rare that we got to convince them of a game plan or get them on board. They're dialed kind of right out the gate. Sometimes the guys, we can't even get them to stay on game plan for 5 seconds after a timeout.
Yeah.
That part's really wonderful to coach the women. And on the men's side, I mean, those guys just compete so hard every day. Just seeing that kind of that competitive juice and fire. So that what they bring to practice. So there's kind of this balance between the two, from the idea of being on game plan to just, wanting to get after it and then trying to get them to both learn from each other,
Yeah.
what strengths of the program. And different challenges, but one of the things that's nice about it is when you go from one team to the next, then it's like a different problem, a different
Hmm.
challenge, a different
Yeah.
opportunity, and it keeps it kind of fresh.
Exactly. Yeah, I think you make a good point too. Where like it also helps. You're a great coach, but it also helps you improve because now you have to you switch your mindset of what you got to fix with the team, right? You go from the guys, or right, the guys season is first, right? They're in the
Yep.
fall. So you
Yep.
go from the guys to the girls. The guys, like you said, they like to, do their own
Yeah.
thing. You gotta
Yeah. They're
completely
getting
switch
after it.
from.
They're, you know,
So
but
I think that's a great point too.
yeah.
So you said you started your coaching career at a JUCO,
Yep.
Santa Rosa, also your alma mater.
Yep.
So how is that coaching experience when you were young and you just started? How has that helped you in your career now?
Junior college is kind of a special place for me because it's this place where you get you kind of get your second opportunity. For
Hmm.
whatever reason, maybe it didn't work out for you right out of high school. Maybe it didn't work out a 4 year and you went back, right? But you're there and you're trying to better yourself and you're trying to get back to that level or to get to that level for the first time. And so it's this kind of like bridge. And so you get a lot of really just great people that want to, reach this big goal and they're looking to you to figure out how to make that happen. But it's also so you get that challenge of recruiting players in, but also getting them to the next step. So that's kind of fun.
Hmm.
And but at the same time, you got to develop those habits, the work ethic, the mentality
Yeah.
necessary. And so for me, at the junior college, one of the things that was really beneficial that's helped my career is the ability every day to try to like keep those players engaged, focused, build the
Hmm.
connections with
Yeah.
them, and get them motivated to try to reach their true potential. And sometimes, in junior college, it's tough to want to stick with it. Sometimes the motivation isn't always there. Sometimes you're not sure whether you're going to make it to your dream.
Hmm.
Teaching people how to persist, teaching people how to become adaptable, teaching people how to have self-efficacy and belief in what they're doing is really big. And um, that was kind of a foundational part of my career in the beginning. And I think it's helped me here at the University of Pacific too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know if there's a show on Netflix. I'm blanking on what it's called. Where it follows like a JUCO in I think East LA or something.
Yeah, last chance you, I think.
Yeah, and all of those guys, that is like literally all that team is former D1 guys. So you see like it's not like a lot of people see JUCO and are like, "Oh, the talent's bad." No, the talent is elite. It's just
Yeah,
they either had you saw in Last Chance U, a lot of the guys had big injuries that really affected their careers, or something went wrong with recruiting, or something in their life went bad that kind of took them
yeah.
away from the sport. So it's not like a loss of talent. But what was recruiting like at, I mean, obviously it's JUCO's 2 years. So what was the difference in recruiting there and to recruiting now where you're at a 4 year? So
Yeah, that's a good question. Junior college, what you're trying to help them do is have see that going to the junior college is going to be a path that's going to allow them to be successful to their ultimate goal. Where when you're recruiting to a Division I program, that's kind of like their ultimate goal, unless they're trying
yeah.
to be Olympians or play pro.
Uh-huh.
And you obviously have a handful of those guys, but if we got 30 guys on the team, how many of those guys are trying to play pro or go to the Olympics? There's just a small section of them. Most of them, it's like, hey,
Exactly.
I'm about trying to play Division I water polo.
Uh-huh.
So, when you're in junior college, you're trying to get them to understand, hey, we can be a great bridge. We can get you to where you need to be, and that we're going to do the work and spend the energy to help mentor you.
Exactly.
At the Division I level, it's more about, hey, look, is this program set up to meet your athletic goals? Is this university going to get you to your where, the degree that you want? And
Hmm.
do you believe in what our mission is, right?
Exactly.
And do we fit what you're looking for?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that we feel was really important when we're recruiting is honestly
Mhm.
just getting people that believe in what we believe in. Not
Yeah.
necessarily always the best players. We want to get the most talented players we can, but we want to get people that believe in what we believe in. And if that's not you, then there's a better place for you. We wish you the best of luck.
Hmm.
We're not interested in just getting the most talented guys. We want to get the people that have the same goal and mission.
Yeah, you talked about a little bit during that what your program believes in. What are some of your like key beliefs that you look for when you're recruiting like people? Like you said, you want to find people that have the same sort of ideology as you guys. So what are sort of the like key things in the Pacific water polo program that you look for?
Yeah, so I met with Pete Carroll a number of times because he's alumni of the University of the Pacific, and
Mhm.
he was generous enough to give me some advice a few times. And one of the things he said was, "Look, if you can't explain what your team is about in one sentence or less, you're never going to win. I don't have any time for you." So I said, "All right," and I took that as kind of a personal challenge. So what our team is about is just two main things: adaptation and team cohesion. And we
Mhm.
define those things very specifically. So adaptation for us is a passion and perseverance to become the most effective and efficient in your current environment. So what does that mean? Passion and perseverance is how Angela Duckworth in the book Grit defines grit, right? So we're looking for people who have that passion for the sport and that perseverance to go through the tough stuff required in the sport to be
Mhm.
great. Um, and we have people that want to become the most effective and efficient, right? So always getting 1% better, always challenging themselves. We're never good enough, right? Always willing to be coached and to learn, and to be curious. So that's critical. And then you got to do that in your current environment. You could be a great player from another place, and then you come here and you have to do things differently. And to understand in every environment, you have to be willing to change. And that what you need to change is based on where you are. From high school to Division 1 to the pros to this league to that league, it doesn't matter. There's always changes that need to be made. So we're looking for people that are adaptable. And then we're
Mhm.
looking for people with team cohesion. And team cohesion is a commitment to the shared dream through understanding and respect. The first part's the most important. Commitment to the shared dream is to try to win a national championship. And they did a study a while ago, and I forget where it was done, but the study was on groups and what caused groups to be successful. And they looked at two main factors, and they called it task cohesion and social cohesion. And social cohesion being how well did everyone get along in the group? And then task cohesion, how well did everyone agree on the goal? And what they found was there was really no correlation to success with the groups that had high social cohesion. But the groups that had high task cohesion, there was a strong correlation to
Mhm.
success. So we want people that all have that same goal of trying to win a national championship. And then we try to
Mhm.
do that through understanding and respect.
Mhm.
And look, when you're on a team, it's hard. We're not going to get along every day.
Yeah.
Battle. We're not looking to be best friends in every moment, but we got to be respectful all the time, and we got to
Mhm.
understand what we're trying to do and where we're coming from. And if we do that, we can have really strong team cohesion. And obviously, there's a lot of days we have a lot of fun and we enjoy what we do, and we have a great time being together. But ultimately, it's about this goal. And if that means some days, we're frustrated, hey, that's part of it. Winning's hard, you
Mhm.
know. It's dirty, it's challenging.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to get after it, and you got to know that's just part of the process. Don't take it
Mhm.
personally, take it seriously.
Yeah, you make a great point too, where like you talk about how you want to show that make sure that they love the game because I've done some interviews with some of the just the athletes here, and your whole life is that sport. Like, yeah, you have school on top of that, but if you're not doing schoolwork or at class, you're either recovering, you're training more, it's so you really need to love what you're doing in order to have success. The two sports that I've interviewed for so far, basketball and track and field, um, were really successful, and it's because, and I'm not saying the other sports here are not, but those are our two of our very most successful sports here, and the big reason to that is the amount of work that the guys put in and that the coaching staff puts in. Like the runners, in all the interviews that I've had with them, have ran from 50 to 70 miles a week. The
Yeah,
basketball guys are training every day of the week, 2 to 3
yeah,
times a day, from what I heard. And then
yeah.
Sunday they're usually off, but still they're training multiple times a day. So if you don't love what you're doing, like I love baseball, I love sports. Do I think I could do it as much as the D1 guys? I don't know. There's a reason why I'm doing this.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Well,
you got to have
that's what I
true
say is
love.
like, when it comes to sports, there's like three levels. You can like it, you can love it, you can be obsessed with it,
Hmm.
right? And so, if you're the more elite level you get to, the more it has to be an obsession,
Yeah. Oh my
right?
God. Yeah.
And so, a lot of people there's a lot of people out there that like sports. Some people love them, and there's very
Uh-huh.
few that are obsessed,
Yeah.
right? And the obsessed ones rise to that elite level.
Exactly. Yeah. Like with all professional athletes, and I've seen this in and this is like my kind of personal view. There's something off with them because of how hyper competitive they are and
Yeah.
how obsessed they are with the game. It's not like a bad thing, but it just
No.
shows their love and obsession for the game is kind of what makes them like a little off. They're hyper competitive. They're so obsessed with this game, and they're so obsessed with the idea of winning a game and winning in their sport that they kind of, you seem a little crazy, but in reality, it's just because they're obsessed and they want to win. So I think you make a great point there too. And we see that too with, I mean, any great athlete like you can think of, Michael Jordan. Obviously I'm a Chicago guy, so I'm gonna talk about
Yeah.
Jordan. He
Yeah.
is, he looked like a total jerk in The Last Dance just as a teammate. But when you look at it, the end of last episode, all of the teammates are like, he may have been a jerk, but if you look at it now, he was a great teammate because he's pushing us all to win. And I think you got to have those guys on your teams if you want to win. You got to have some of those guys who are like kind of jerks, but in reality, they just want to see the team succeed.
Yeah. To be honest, I think they're critical. So
Yeah.
I think they're critical. And definitely it's just look, to be elite at something, you got to be different.
hmm
And so most people, they don't understand. Like a lot of people like look at me and then be like, "Oh, why don't you spend more time? Why don't you have some hobbies or some things you like to do on the side? Why do you work so much?" Eh, You don't understand.
Exactly.
Never gonna understand me. You may want to go out and go wine tasting or skydiving or travel someplace, and you think that's amazing. And you're like, why don't I want to do this? I'm not living a happy life. No, you don't get it.
hmm
I love this. This is what I love. I love this way more than that. That other stuff wouldn't make me happy at all. This is what
hmm
makes me happy. And most people don't understand like that level of obsession about it. And
Exactly.
that's why we're just different.
hmm
But, also I just don't think you can be great at anything if you're not obsessed because the more things that you try to do, the more your time is divided. The more your time is divided, the
hmm
less you'll be elite. There's no other
Exactly.
way to look at it. So if you like spending time doing a lot of other hobbies, good for you. Enjoy it. That's your thing. I've got no comment on it. But don't be upset when you're not elite.
Exactly. Yeah, you
Yeah.
make a great point. Like what you're, especially with you being a coach for both teams, you really have to love what you're doing. And I remember we talked last time, you talked about how you guys traveled, and because you brought up traveling, you traveled
Yep.
for water polo. It's not like you
Oh, yeah.
travel for a vacate. Like obviously, the views and stuff were nice, but you traveled because of water polo. So I think that's a good point too, where you
Yeah,
made.
I mean, my the last week, I coached a game. I coached a game last Saturday. I flew the next day. I flew to Montenegro.
hmm
I was there. While I was there, I was running a fundraiser back here remotely while I was recruiting. Okay, and then I flew back. I got back, and 2 hours later, I was coaching a game. And then the
hmm
next day, I was putting on an elite tournament for the men's team, out of season men's team and ran that all the way through the end of the weekend.
hmm
So, I mean, in 7 days, we're talking about two in-season games, a fundraiser, recruiting, and an elite out of season tournament in seven.
Yeah,
I mean, during
that's
that
yeah.
time, I don't think that I slept more than 3 hours in one stretch,
hmm
and I was like
Yeah,
the happiest I've ever been.
exactly. Yeah, you got to really love what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I was looking over your page and stuff. It said that you were an author. So one, what kind of motivated you to become an author and write? And then two, what does it feel like to be an author?
Yeah, so we've published a number of academic journals on water polo statistics, myself and John Mayberry and a few
Mhm,
others. And one of the things that we like to do is like, I always think there's businessmen and there's academics, and academics look to, discover things and then share them with the world to help, the world be better. And then there's business people that discover things and they use them to make themselves profitable.
mhm,
We like to share the information. This last weekend, I was listening to a coach, Ricardo Azevedo, who said, knowledge not shared is knowledge lost. And we like to share it. And so being an author is really cool, being able
mhm,
to share what we found. Um, and, put the effort and the research in to do those kinds of things. Definitely separates us. There's not a lot of other coaches out there publishing academic journals.
Yeah.
Especially on statistics, right? But we're doing that, and we
mhm,
we really enjoy trying to discover more and more things about the game.
mhm. Yeah, and I think you make a good point too, where like for me, a reason why I love interviewing people and I love interviewing like high level coaches and high level athletes is because I love picking their brain and seeing what they think of how much they love what they're doing because it's an interesting thing. Like I
Right.
love, and you said you wrote about the stats and stuff. It's interesting to me breaking that stuff down, especially from a person of your level where you understand the game at such a high level and can break it down so well compared to like a normal like high school coach or like something like that where you can break the game down at such a high level. It's so interesting for me, and it's like I can understand why you do that because a lot of people like to, because like you said, some people just don't understand. So when you write it, it's so much easier for people to understand what you're thinking of and what's going through your mind. So I think that's a good point too. Um, what is the greatest thing about coaching?
Well, there's a lot of great things about coaching. For me, it's just the opportunity to try to challenge yourself on a daily basis. What I love is trying to solve problems that other people think are impossible. That's
Hmm.
like what wakes me up in the morning, you know? I'm a competitive person. I want to compete against the best, to beat the best, to be the best. You know, that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm trying to do it in my own way, in a different way, and trying to be innovative and creative. So I love that the fact that every day as a coach, you're just being challenged with new and different problems, and that you get to face those this day, each day. I like to wake up in the morning and just do a little bit of a gratitude situation
Hmm.
where like I spend 5 minutes kind of what I'm thankful for, and I always end this like gratitude moment with this concept, right? I always say. Thank you for the challenges that I'm going to face today. I look forward to the opportunities to face them and to prove that I'm, the best version of myself, right?
Hmm.
Like that's what I look forward to. So like when a problem comes that way today, and it may not be something that most people will go, hey, oh man, this is bad or this is horrible or they're upset about and gets them all fired up. Like, no, I see that and I go, hey, this is an opportunity to show how great I am. This is an
Hmm.
opportunity to solve a problem. This is an opportunity to challenge myself in different ways. So I love that about coaching. And then
Hmm.
obviously the other thing is just kind of the camaraderie,
Hmm.
being a part of a
Yeah.
team and battling it out with a group of people. That's just fun. I've been a part of a
Hmm.
team since I was in second grade, every year of my life, right? And there's just something different when you're going through it with these people and the kind of commitment you have together, the bonds you create through it. And it's just a different type of bond than normal friendships because it's harder and there's more confrontation and conflict and things like this. It draws you closer together. So those kind of connections you make with your teammates, with your players, with your coaches, those are really cool too.
Hmm. Yeah, you make a good point too. Like you're going to battle with your team, which is like one of the most fun things. You get the other team's best, and you're giving them your best, and that's what makes sports and so enjoyable. It's like whenever you're playing, it's the you're getting their best no matter what, which makes it so much fun. But we talked about what the best thing about coaching is. What's the hardest thing about coaching?
Uh, in the beginning, to be honest, it's probably understanding that you're going to have to make decisions that people don't like. Being a leader and being in a leadership role, there was a quote by Steve Jobs that if you wanted to be liked, you should sell ice cream.
Hmm.
So, if you want to be a leader, you got to understand that you're never going to have everyone like the decisions you're going to make. It's funny when I when I have new captains each year, they always get so excited about the opportunity to be the leaders of the team. And they're so passionate about the concept of, I know that we can do it better than the last group did it. And I'm sure we can unify the group so much easier than the previous set of captains. And then halfway through it, it's the same as the last group, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, different, but they're facing the same challenges because leadership's hard. Okay. Not everyone's going to love what you do. You have to make tough choices. So that's one of the really difficult parts about being a coach is making those choices that people aren't going to enjoy, yet you care about those people that don't enjoy your decisions,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And still making them.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then the last thing is probably just not caring what everyone thinks of you, which kind of goes a little bit hand in hand because it's not just the players, but it's also just the media, the fans, the supporters, the opponent's fans, just understanding that there's going to be a certain amount of hatred coming at you all the time, right? And it's
Definitely.
part of the ball game. That's just part of the ball game. There's going to be a lot of trash talk coming at you, and not letting that affect your decisions, and believing in what you do and sticking to your process and just blocking that stuff out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I was like the coach slash like captain for my intramural team, and I would have to like bring in sub guys out, and it would be like I felt bad in like a college intramural game that literally meant nothing in like the
Yeah,
grand scheme of things, and even
yeah,
then, it's like it felt bad because it's like these guys are some of my better players. I'm taking them out to rest them a little bit, and they're like
yeah,
complaining like put me back in. I'm like I'm just trying to get people to play a little bit. So
yeah,
like I get what you like. I coached an intramural team, and
yeah.
even then I was like this is like not fun. Like it's fun. Like I'm in the game, but it's like you have to make hard decisions, like you said, which is a great point. Who's your biggest coaching inspiration?
Probably early on it was Phil Jackson. Like when I first got into coaching, the first real book I read that I felt like was kind of moving me in that direction of being a coach
Hmm.
was called Sacred Hoops. And
Yeah.
it's one of the books I like to give out to like new staff members because it kind of impacted me at the beginning of my career. Um, and but as I went on, I realized like Phil Jackson and I, as much as I admire him, um, that's not necessarily authentically me, you know? I'm not quite as zen as Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
I'm a little more Pat Riley, And it's that from him as a mentor, that, or as a coaching idol, that was a big thing. But then there's obviously
Hmm.
been some coaches that have been in my camp, and then Ken Lindgren, Monty Niskowski, who are fantastic coaches,
Hmm.
helped me early on. They're kind of role models of mine. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, but I like to read about all these different coaches. I'm
Hmm.
constantly reading books and studying all the coaches from different sports.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
love
and I like.
I love Jose Mourinho.
Hmm.
Um, I think he's a really interesting guy, and Pep Guardiola.
Uh-huh.
And I think both those coaches are fantastic.
Hmm.
Very
Yeah,
different.
and you talk about coaching, like we were talking about coaching inspirations. I don't know my dad, like what's going on in his mind, but considering how much you've been and helped my dad with coaching, I would assume you're one of his coaching inspirations too. So that's
Well,
pretty.
he's helped me as well. So we've had a lot of really good conversations. I've taken things from him, so it's I consider it more of a collaboration.
Yeah, because sometimes last year I remember he was talking to me and he's like, dude, I made this sick play, and it was like this play where like the guy went under everyone, like swam under everybody, went to the other side of the pool, was wide open and shot it, and he was
Yeah.
like, I made this sick play and stuff. So he definitely
That's fun.
tells me about it.
Yeah, that's fun.
Um, but you've coached at Pacific at for 16 years, so there's something there that you really like. So what do you love about Pacific, and why have you been able to stay like why have you stayed there for so long? Because when you think of the power schools in water polo, I think before you were there, Pacific was not really on the map. I could be wrong considering I was 2 years old when that happened. So I could be a little off,
No, you're
but
not.
um there are so many, and with the success you've had, there are so many big schools that could have and probably wanted you, but what made you want to stay at Pacific?
Yeah. Well, I really just kind of believe in this place for a variety of reasons. It kind of fits my personality and who I am, what I'm all about. So, from one of the things that makes me believe deeply in Pacific is the kind of autonomy they give me to be able to coach and coach authentically. And so there's a lot of innovation required to be successful at Pacific, and that's something that like
Mhm.
I love, and I
Yeah.
love to try to find ways to do things differently, do things in a new way, be
Mhm.
creative, find different pathways to success that other people haven't looked at. And Pacific is a great opportunity to do that, and they really empower me to be
Mhm.
as creative and innovative as possible. And then the other thing that makes me love Pacific is just kind of generally the education I also believe in, because I went to the
Mhm.
University of Redlands and I loved my experience there. Go Dogs. Okay.
Yeah.
And there we had kind of very similar level, like, small class sizes, about the same size
Mhm.
student body. And some of my best friends coming out of college were my professors. Shout out to Sandy Kuntz and Tamara Veenstra, who were there, and they just changed my life from an academic standpoint. And I just loved mathematics because of it. And so, just spending time with them, I just believe that that type of education, that small classroom size, really just makes a big difference. Because I was an average high school student, and then I graduated with honors, and they changed my whole trajectory because
Mhm.
of the passion they had for their subjects and just connecting with their students. So we have that same thing here at Pacific. So kind of the combination of those two opportunities just fits great for me. So I
Mhm.
just really love it here.
Yeah, yeah. You never, as a coach, you never want to go to a place that like makes you have to change and sort of adjust to their thing. Like you talked about Pat Riley, since he's been on the Heat culture, it's real. It's a real thing. They come out, and Dwayne Wade, I think, might have said this. I might be wrong, but he said that they would have a little book before the season. They can't have body weight. I think below, is it 10% or something, or
Yeah.
above 10%, something
Yeah.
like insane. And that's the Pat Riley effect. So if a place isn't letting you like be you as a coach, then why would you be there? And I think you make
Yeah.
a great point where you're like and also you've been able to build a system that's consistent and consistently good at what you do. So I think that's a great thing as well with Pacific.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's kind of what makes me lucky to be here.
And yeah. When I was looking at some of your stuff earlier, it brought up the dream big mentality. So what does that mean for you, and what does that mean for your team?
Yeah, so I mean, we only want people that come here that have something to prove, that have a big dream, right? If you don't have that, you're not going to have the passion and perseverance to do the work required to be successful. So you got to have that big dream because that's what's going to wake you up in the morning. That's what's going to get you to do the things you don't want to do.
Hmm.
Every day there's all kinds of stuff required to be, elite at the top level that you don't want to do. And that are tough and demanding and sometimes miserable, but you got to
Oh
go
yeah.
through them anyways. And so, in order to go through that stuff, you have to have a high level of intrinsic motivation, and that comes from the big dream. And so we're looking for people with big dreams, people that want to, win a national championship, people that
Hmm.
want to win the NCAA Player of the Year, people that want to go pro, people that want to be an Olympian, people that want to show that they can come from outside of California and make it in Division I water polo inside of California. We're looking for
Hmm.
people with all those big dreams,
Hmm.
and we feel like when we get those types of players, that's when we all really gel, get along well, and we're successful.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great. You've had a lot of success at Pacific specifically. You guys have been to the national championship, haven't gotten one yet, but we both know one is coming soon.
Yeah.
Um, so what do you kind of attribute to be able to sustain that success? Because unlike professional sports where you can keep these guys for however long you want, college you have 4 or 5 years at most. So how have you been able to kind of keep that sort of revolving door of players in and just consistently being one of the top programs in the country?
Yeah, well, one, we've been extremely fortunate to have so many great players come through the program. That's
Mhm.
a real key. I mean, uh, great players make the coach look good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can't score any goals for them. Like they're doing that. So, but I think what it is, honestly, is, you know, being clear on who you are and what you're about, showing them how hard you're willing to work for them, and making sure the players understand that there's this pathway to their dreams. There's this kind of silly idea about what a coach is. And so one of the things that what a coach is they'll show a slide of Cinderella's pumpkin being turned into a stagecoach, right? And the idea is that a coach is someone that transports you to your dream, right? And that's what you're really doing. So this idea of the stagecoach and Cinderella, that's really
Yeah.
just a right because that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to help players get to their dreams.
Hmm.
And when you do that well, okay, and when you have a reputation for helping people get there and they know how hard you work and you know how passionate you are about it, I think that reputation that you get from your players and they share that with the next generation, that allows the next set group of people to come on through
Hmm.
and be a part of the program and believe in what we're doing. So I think especially in this day and age with the transfer portal and everything like this, being the best place for free agency, being a place that players understand what you're going to do for them and how you're going to treat them is really super critical to success. And we try to show that every day.
Hmm. Yeah, my first off, my mom's gonna love the Cinderella analogy. It's a favorite Disney princess movie.
Okay, winning.
But yeah, I mean that's a great point. You see all these schools like Duke, who before Coach K got there was awful. Since Coach K got there, they've been able to show one, they get the best guys, and two, they produce talent. Like, and we're talking about first round talent. You have to talk about John Calipari in the basketball world. He creates
Yeah,
so much first round talent. Now his teams might be a little disappointing, but that's not because of him. He does a great job of bringing in talent. I think that's what you do too. Is like you've shown I can bring in talent. I can bring in guys who are successful overseas at the pro level and the Olympic level too. So I think that's a great thing where it's a lot of like that's how like pipeline states are made for recruiting. Like you get a lot of guys like Bradley. A big pipeline for our basketball team, for our men's team, is Milwaukee, because we have a lot of
yeah,
guys who come from Milwaukee and who are successful here. So we keep on building from that. So I think you make a good point with like, yeah, you got to
yeah,
be able to have success, but you also have to be able to sustain it.
yeah.
Um,
Pipelines are critical.
yeah. And you've coached at not only at Pacific, you've also helped with the USA Polo. So what is the biggest difference, and what's the experience like being a coach for your country?
Yeah, obviously it's an honor. It's
Mhm.
fantastic to get a chance to coach with Team USA. I've got had a chance to do it on a variety of levels with the youth national team and junior national team, World University Games, help the senior national team with like data analytics and things like this. So
Yeah.
I've done a lot of stuff with Team USA. A big difference between college and that is the amount of time you're with the team because
Mhm.
national teams, they're only together for a small portion of the year or whether they're off playing pro or they're playing college or whatever, the athletes aren't together as long. So you really kind of have to bring them together, create that culture, and figure out how you're going to play in a much faster tempo
Mhm.
than you
Yeah.
do with your college teams, where you're able to build them over a series of years and lay that foundation. So, but they're fun challenges, and it's amazing
Mhm.
to represent your country and to get to go all over the world and compete against the best. So, they've been some of my favorite experiences for sure.
Yeah, and you get to cross the box out where people say you don't go on vacations. Yeah, you do. You go to Montenegro, Hungary, you go
Yeah, I
all
mean,
over.
yeah, I've been all over the world for water polo. It's taken me, I've been to Italy, Croatia, Montenegro, Serbia, Hungary, Germany, Canada, Ireland, uh, England. I mean, I don't know. There's just off the top of my head so many places that I've just gone because there's just been water polo trips.
Uh-huh.
Romania. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so many places that I would never have seen without water polo.
Yeah, I gotta ask on the subject of traveling, where's the favorite place that you've been, and just like the water polo culture.
Yeah, so I mean, I got two favorites at this point in time. One, I love Budapest in Hungary.
Hmm.
Just water polo is so big there. It's such a there's so many amazing clubs. I love the city. The food's great. Had a lot of players from there. I generally just really get along well with Hungarians. I don't know why our personalities seem to line up. I really love going to Budapest and spending time there. And the second place we actually got to travel this summer, and then I just went back there to Montenegro and being on the sea in Herzegovina was fantastic. It's so beautiful. It's really relaxed. They got a great program over there. And Yadron, their club team is amazing and they're very
Uh-huh.
hospitable. So those two places are probably my two favorite places I've traveled for water polo. But
Yeah,
I'd have
that's
to
fair.
say Ireland is maybe my favorite place I've gone, but it's not necessarily the water polo hotspot. But can't beat a Guinness in Ireland.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Um, yeah, I'm hoping eventually, and we'll talk about this a little later. I got some more questions about it, but hopefully, eventually, it can be somewhere in the States where the water polo can sort of the culture can be water polo oriented. Hopefully, soon.
Yeah.
Um, what made you fall in love with water polo? Like, when was it? A lot of like guys have that moment where they're like, "Yeah, I remember, I got cut from the high school team. And that's when I'm like, I'm gonna fall." So, what was your kind of moment where you fell in love with water polo?
Yeah, I mean, I was just a sophomore in high school, and I got convinced by a friend of mine to come out. I was hardcore basketball guy, just obsessed with
Hmm.
basketball like I am about water polo. And this guy just wouldn't leave me alone to come out and play polo. And so I finally agreed. And after that moment, I kind of never looked back. And crazy thing is, he transferred out of the high school, and I never saw him again. He's got no idea. He changed my whole life. Um, but it came pretty quickly because the people that I was around and the teammates and the coaches, it was just so much fun. It was just
Hmm.
so much fun to play water polo, and I noticed that it had a lot of similarities to basketball. And sometimes there's just something in your soul that like you can't really explain. And I really just love being in the water and around the water. I'm always
Hmm.
drawn to it, and and so I think there was just like this natural connection for me
Hmm.
between the way water polo plays, is how, the similarity to basketball and the transfer of skills.
Yeah.
Really pretty seamless, and just getting a chance to be around this great group of people, and definitely a different style and culture than basketball.
Yeah.
Uh, and I loved it right out of the gate.
It's also a lot like basketball in the 90s where you could actually like put a hand on someone, and now it's if
Yeah.
you breathe on someone a little off and it kind of messes with them, it's an automatic foul. So that's another thing.
Yeah,
Because
there's a lot of physicality to it, you know.
exactly.
It's a very tough sport, you know, from the wrestling to the aerobic to the swimming to the skill of being able to shoot.
Hmm.
There's a it takes a lot of abilities in a lot of
Yeah.
different areas to be able to play
Yeah.
water.
Yeah, you basically have to be multitasking the whole time because
Yeah,
you gotta tread and then you gotta think of a play or a shot or something. And
yeah,
I gotta ask, I was a swimmer throughout my whole high school career, and ever since I was a little, little John.
yeah.
What did it? I used to have long hair, and swimming in the pool was just awful because it would always get knotted. Was your
Yeah.
hair ever like really badly affected? And did you just kind of go like short? Now I'm short now, so it's a lot easier to maintain and deal with it. But how was that kind of dealing with the chlorine and all that with your hair?
Yeah, I've fried it plenty, you know, but yeah, I have short hair now too. I personally love short hair because I tried the long hair stint for little bit, but it was not my jam. But it, you know, it's funny. It's just kind of, you know, you walk around and you play polo and you can't tell anyone that does because you just reek of chlorine all the time.
Yeah,
So it's it's one of those things. But yeah, I don't know. I love it.
yeah,
It's
yeah. No,
that or you can smell like, you know, basketball shoes, you know, and gym socks. You just, it's like, I'll take the chlorine smell.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And so my dad, is a big polo guy, as you know. But when he
Yeah.
started, his parents originally were like, "We don't want you to play baseball because it's a little bit of too dangerous."
Yeah.
Then they decided, "Oh, water polo it can't be that bad." Then they went to a game, and then you realize that they're literally trying to be drowned. And I've seen like I've been I'm always supporting my dad, especially when I was younger. I'm always at the games, and like guys are like actively like drowning. Like you see them like splashing and stuff. So it's a lot more physical than a lot of people think just on the surface. Like in the Olympics, I love when they have that underwater camera and you can
Yeah.
really see like how like dirty these guys are getting.
Yeah. They're getting after it, that's for sure.
Yeah,
There's
everything is earned in the pool, definitely.
you got to have a certain mentality to play the sport. If you don't have a certain mentality, it doesn't really, you know, work. So,
Exactly.
uh, go back to kind of being a jerk or a punk. You got to have a little bit of that streak in you.
Hmm. Oh, yeah, definitely. Um, what do you think the sport has to do to grow? We talked about how big it is overseas and how all the professional stuff is overseas, even though we have so many D1 programs over here. What do you think it needs to grow to specifically? I mean, we can do kind of just in America, but also, as a whole, like it's a big sport when the Olympics come around, but overall, you're not like, hey, did you watch that water polo game last
Yeah.
night? Like, what do you think they got to do to build that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a few things. I don't think that I'm necessarily or usually ever in in the kind of majority of what people think. I think I'm an outlier. I think I'm an irritant. I think I'm
Hmm.
like, kind of the guy that kind of causes problems and makes people think differently about things. They don't always enjoy it. But what I would say is one, look, in order to have a successful sport, you have to think about how you're going to grow it
Hmm.
from a fan base. And if you don't have the fans, then you're really never going to generate the revenue. So to
Yeah.
me, it's all about how do we get people to come to the games and participate in the events and enjoy the experience. In order to do that, the fans that haven't played water polo or don't know much about water polo, you got to make the sport understandable. And if you don't make it understandable, you have a huge barrier to success. So if a fan comes out and they've never seen the game and then they're confused by all the whistles, they're not coming back. So
Hmm. Yeah.
we need to one, do a better job at making the rules and the way it's officiated more clear and obvious to everybody what's going on so that someone who comes in can understand it kind of naturally without any background. That if they've watched basketball or they've watched soccer or whatever it may be, they can come in, watch our sport and be like, I get the concept. I'm not confused.
Hmm.
Right? So that's one thing. And then the other thing is I just think that we need to make the experience more fun and kind of longer and create a more of an event than just like a quick short game. So
Hmm.
longer half times, being able to put more entertainment in there, being able to sell more concessions, being able to kind of increase the kind of fan experience from the contests that go on to the way you use video boards to
Hmm.
the way you engage your audience, all of those things that create the best sports in the country, the
Hmm.
tailgates and things like this. So you have to really be kind of conscious about how you put all that stuff together,
Hmm.
where fans go, "Hey, look, this is what we want to do." Mark Cuban once said they think a lot of people think that basketball owners are in the basketball business. He said that's not true. We're in the business of what are you doing with your time on Saturday?
Hmm. Yeah.
We're trying to get you to spend your time on Saturday to come to their product, right?
Hmm.
That's what basketball owners are in the business of, not
Yeah.
basketball. And that's the same thing that if we really want to have a popular sport, we need to be in the business of what are you doing with your time on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? And they should want to go, what would be best to take my family out to a water polo event.
Hmm.
When we do that, the sport's going to grow exponentially.
Yeah.
Until then, we are going to have a kind of a niche sport that people will love, and it's fantastic. The product's there, but if you can't make it understandable and we can't make it an event that people want to spend their time on Saturday and Sunday doing, we're always going to kind of be more of a minor sport.
Yeah, definitely. You make a good point too, where like the biggest sport in America is the NFL, and the main idea of it is you're trying to tackle and kill somebody when you're trying to tackle them. Water polo has that sort of physicality that Americans love to see. So you
Right.
already have and we've talked earlier, like you have the elite level athletes. Like they're D1 athletes for a reason. They're elite at what they do. You already have the elite level guys in the sport. It's just a matter of can you make it more understandable? And you talked about kind of like the fan atmosphere, and this kind of segue me in my next question with the fan atmosphere. What is the atmosphere like at the NCAA tournaments? I can only imagine because you're in a pool, which is a lot more closed of a space than the March Madness tournaments, where I can hear the noise through the TV for March Madness. So I can only imagine what it's like for a pool where it's a lot closer of an environment. So what is that kind of like?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing experience. There's nothing really like it the rest of the year.
Hmm.
All the fans kind of descend on this. We sell these things out on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
It's so loud. During the season, I'm able to give a lot of instruction to my team and be able to help my team. But during an NCAA game, they could barely hear me. It's really just kind of on them to execute.
Yeah.
But that's what everyone wants to do. You always want to play on the biggest stage. That's one of the things that's great about the University of the Pacific and our program is that our fans come out in such huge numbers. I think we have the probably biggest fan base on like a per game average in the
Yeah.
country, and it's an exciting place to play. So the NCAA's got that same atmosphere, sometimes on steroids, but it's uh
Mhm.
it's really it's really it's really fun.
Yeah, especially it's also like you say you have a lot of fans. Also, these other schools that for a lot of a lot of sports, a lot of the people tune in. One like there are a lot. I call a lot of college kids fake fans. until their team makes the postseason, because that's the only time they really care.
Yeah.
So that's what it could be like for a lot of the teams you face, where like the atmosphere is crazy because the other school is finally bringing in more people, and you guys, from what it sounds like, already have a really really strong fan base. So that's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you make a great point too with what the sport needs to improve on, because and this obviously probably has a little bit of kind of like um favoritism towards it, because I've always been around water polo my whole life. But yeah, no, I really hope that water polo grows. And the good thing about it is we talked about how we want it to grow in America. What better way than to have the 2028 Olympics in America?
Yeah. That'll be
So
fantastic. Looking forward to
so
that for sure.
exactly. So that'll be another great thing where like it can also grow the American pride for it too. Where like it's America, they're in America,
Yeah.
and our water polo team is consistently getting better. As did we bronze last year, or did we place in
Yeah.
the game?
Yeah. The US men's team took a bronze. It was fantastic.
Exactly, and our women's team is dominant.
Yeah.
So we have the team and the talent. So I'm really excited to see what they can do in the 2028 Olympics. Hopefully they can bring the gold home. Obviously we got those countries like Hungary, like all those Eastern European countries that are going to be hard to beat. But overall, I'm really excited, and thank you again for taking time to out of your busy schedule to do this.
Oh, my
Um,
pleasure.
didn't mess it up this time, which is a good one. Um, we made sure the audio and stuff was all right. So
Yeah.
that's good. But yeah, thanks for being so flexible, and I hope you enjoyed it. But yeah, guys, make sure you subscribe, share this with your friends, follow, like, do all the good stuff. It means a lot. And thank you guys.